Welcome to Let's Talk About It, our brand new podcast talking about all the things: mental health, mental illness, suicide prevention, grief, breaking the stigma, advocacy, you name it. We're going to talk about it here. My name is Kris Miller, and I am the founder of On a Dragonfly's Wings, and I am your host. And I would like to introduce my amazing co-host, Whitney Hunt. Would you like to say hello?
Yes, hi. Thank you for having me as your co-host.
I'm so glad you're doing it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I know that when you brought this to my attention about doing a podcast for this topic, I was like, yeah. Like, there was no question in my head. I was like, I am doing it, yes.
So I appreciate it. Whitney and I, we met a couple years ago, and she puts on a music festival. Yep. And she asked my organization to come and participate in a rock painting activity for kids. Yep. And then this last summer, the music festival accepted donations, and they were on behalf of Whitney's friend Trevor, who she will talk about, and On a Dragonfly's Wings in memory of my son Nikolai. And so they presented us with a really nice check, and it was just an amazing music festival. And so I got to know Whitney a little bit, and
I think we hit it off kind of right from the start, and we really appreciate you being at the festivals. That was great to see the rock painting and all that, and then to be able to donate to your organization was even better. Yeah. So we really appreciate it.
Well, it's been amazing getting to know you, and I'm so glad to have you as my co-host.
Yeah, thank you.
So we're just going to jump into it. Today is going to be kind of an introduction to me and my story and my son Nikolai's story and my organization. And this podcast is going to be released every 2 weeks, we decided. Yep. And so the next one, what's the date again? I don't remember. It's in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's in 2 weeks. So it would be the 24th.
The 24th. So we are going to be doing that one. Whitney's going to share her story.
Yeah, so we'll do an introduction with you, and then the next episode I'll do an introduction about my whole story.
Yeah. So that way you guys get to know us a little bit and who we are and all that jazz. Yeah. And then we have already started talking about a really amazing lineup of guests for future.
I'm really excited about it. I mean, I got a whole list right here, and I'm going, yes. So, yeah, I'm very excited about it.
So we hope that you tune in every other week and meet some of these amazing guests that we're going to have.
So just quick note, this will be on Channel 10 Comcast in Waterford, AT&T 99 in Waterford. It'll be on demand website through our website, mainetworkofwaterford.org. And then I think you also have a Spotify for it?
I do. I created a Spotify account, so it will be on Spotify. So if you listen to other podcasts there, that would be a cool place to pick it up, too.
Yeah, and I think we were also probably going to try and put it on YouTube?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. So you got a couple different platforms.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, Kris.
Yes.
Let's start with your son, Nikolai, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So give us a little background about who he was, what it was. I hate saying was, I'm sorry. I'm going to put a disclaimer out right now, is this show is going to have a lot of trigger words. We'll try and keep it as easy as possible for the listeners, but be aware we will probably say certain words that will trigger people. This, I don't know about for you, but for me, this will not be easy. No. There's going to be a lot of hard things to be said, but it needs to be said. So start with who Nikolai was.
So Nikolai, he was a very bright light in this world. We actually adopted him.
Oh, wow.
He is our middle child, so he was bookended by biological boys. And we adopted him from Kemerovo, Siberia, Russia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was actually a faster process than what most people would think, being that it's an international adoption. But Kemerovo, which is where he's from, it was very, very pro-American, and just their orphanages were full to the brim, and they really just wanted loving families to adopt their children and give them good homes. And so they were very pro-American, and so it moved very, very quickly. And so we brought him home. He was just shy of a year old. He was 10 months old when we brought him home in April. So his official gotcha day is April 7th, and we still celebrate it even though he is gone now.
Yeah.
So that's the day we brought him home. And then I gave birth to my youngest in July.
Oh,
So
my
they
goodness.
literally were 13 months apart.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Everyone says, oh, that's always how it works. You decide to adopt and then you get pregnant.
Yep.
So it was a lot because my oldest was just shy of 5. So it was a lot.
So you had a 5, a
13-month or
10-month
Yeah.
old, 10, 11-month-old, and then your
Baby,
youngest.
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was a lot. But it was fun. It was good. It was how it was meant to be. And the Nikolai and my youngest Riley, we used to call them the littles. I still, even when they were 13 and 14, I called them my littles just because that's just how I called them. But yeah, so we adopted him, and he just was so joyful, like just very happy-go-lucky, loved people, would go up to anybody, which was a little scary. We'd be in the mall, like at the play place or whatever, and he would just walk over and sit in some other mom's lap and, whatever. That's just the kid he was. But he would talk to anybody, play with any child, just a very, very cool kid.
Was he into sports?
He was. So he was probably one of the most athletic kids you will ever meet. It didn't matter what the sport was, what the activity was. He picked it up and did it amazingly. Soccer was his gig.
Okay.
And I think because it kept moving, like he played baseball for a couple of years, but I think baseball for him was very slow.
Yeah.
There's a lot of picking of dandelions out in the field.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But he was, he liked it. He pitched. He did some different things, and he liked it. But I think in the end, it was just a little bit too slow for him. But he did gymnastics.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the very first night of gymnastics, he was already on the uneven bars doing pull-ups. So, I know, he just had incredible strength.
He was, going everywhere.
Yeah, he was amazing. And just...
School was good for him?
So, it started out okay. Kindergarten... we started to kind of notice some tall tales, some storytelling, and, trying to get maybe other kids in trouble or, just to see pushing limits and doing different things. And we just thought maybe it was, youngster behavior. And then in, first grade, second grade, we talked to some of his teachers, about it, his behavior. He just was very restless. One of the teachers actually recommended we get him tested for ADHD. He just couldn't sit still, very impulsive, just said whatever came to his head, did whatever came to his head, didn't think through things. You would tell him to clean his room, and it just, literally you couldn't say that because it was just so overwhelming to him, to stand in the middle of his room and, look at it, and it would be well, I don't even know where to begin.
Wow.
So we just started to notice some things. We did get him tested, and we got him on some medication for ADHD.
Okay.
So that started in first grade, and he, had a special plan in elementary school with his teachers, to kind of help him when he was restless, letting him do certain things. He would sit on one of those, those really big, what are they, stability core balls or whatever, the big balls you can kind of bounce on.
Yep.
So he used that instead of a chair.
Okay.
Pretty much through all elementary school, he would sit on that. And it was great because he could kind of bounce. So, he's utilizing
it's kind of like
some
a fidget
of that energy.
chair.
Yes. And he was allowed fidgets and, all that kinds of stuff. But we noticed, just some of the lying was getting intense, and he really didn't like school. And I think it really just came down to, he struggled, right? Like, so writing was a struggle. It always had been. I mean, from the time that he was 2, we had him in occupational therapy just because he couldn't even hardly figure out how to hold a pencil, let alone try and use it to write or to do anything. So I think it really just came from, he struggled. Like, his favorite thing was reading, and he read books incessantly, like just crazy. He loved books. He loved reading. He had Rick Riordan was like his favorite author, the Percy Jackson series. So he was a voracious reader, but just like math was really, really, really hard for him. Writing was super hard, and really it was just a matter of like trying to, physically actually put words on paper. And so I think, elementary is still kind of fun and games while you're still learning a little bit. But I think once he hit middle school and school gets a little more serious, right? And just relationships with people get different, and he had really, really good friends in elementary school. And then, they moved to middle school, and, those friends maybe weren't as friendly anymore.
Right.
I think that, he had kind of talked about, I think he felt like he was the weird kid, because he was impulsive, and even on his medication, he would still say things or do things that, other kids might be like, wow, that's crazy. Like, what are you doing? Or why would you say that?
Right.
And so I think that some of the friends he might have had in elementary started to just kind of, find other friends and kind of walk away from him a little bit. And I think that left him kind of feeling a little bit lost.
Yeah.
Like
maybe he felt like the outcast.
Yeah, a little bit. And so I think he tried to compensate by being a little bit more of a clown, because if you're funny.
Sure.
And he tried out, he did cross country. He was amazing, so fast. But I had him running with me since the time he was like 5. Like, he would run 5Ks with me and lap me, like ridiculous.
Nice.
But he did cross country and he did track, and then he picked up the viola in orchestra at middle school. And so I think he was just trying to like find where he belonged, find a group of, where he belonged and use his skills.
Yeah.
And, but along the way, school just became harder and harder and harder for him. And, I think he had some really good teachers in middle school that really tried to help him. He had a really great counselor that really tried to help him. He had an IEP. Like, there were things that we did. We had him in therapy to kind of work through some of, the things. And 8th grade was really the hardest year. Other than orchestra, he dropped every activity. Like, he dropped out of all sports.
Oh, wow.
He kind of stopped hanging out with friends. He never really wanted to have anybody over. He never really went anywhere. We would ask him if he wanted to go to the movies with a friend, and, the answer was typically no.
So he just kind of stayed in his bedroom the whole time?
Yeah, he just kind of became a little bit of a recluse. And, he loved Legos and building, and he had some old model cars and different things. And so he did a lot of, just taking apart, putting things together and building things in his room, or he would read or, whatever. But just kind of stepping back from a lot. And he started high school, and I really thought, okay, we're different school, maybe there'll be some really different things happening, a lot of cool things. And 9th grade ended up not really being that great. And he stayed in orchestra. And honestly, I think it's so funny to me because he really didn't like to play. And he hated practicing.
Really?
Like, every time we would be like, look, like, you just have to practice, like, 15 minutes a night, you know?
Right.
And he would, I don't want to. I hate it, blah, 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 you know? And I was like,
Right.
of all the things that you kept out of all your activities, like, this is it. And
Right.
you hate it? Like, I don't understand. But I think, like, even after he died, you know, the kids that came to his funeral, like, they were orchestra kids,
Yeah.
you know? And I think that he kind of found his people.
Yeah.
And, you know, a place where maybe he belonged. And so I don't think it was about the instrument.
Right. It was about
and the
social.
playing. Yeah, it was about social.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think that was probably the best part about school for him. And he kind of turned into a person we didn't really know. He just became very quiet, very almost dark. Very disrespectful. You know, he was the kid who always said please and thank you, always. Most respectful child. And in 9th grade, really, you know, he was snapping at teachers. He flipped one off in the hallway. Like, he just became someone we didn't know. Mm-hmm. And, you know, trying to have conversations with them. And, you know, he was seeing a therapist, and, you know, but the therapist was like, you know, he's not really opening up to me. And then the therapist would say one thing, and then we would say another thing, and it looked like Nikolai was just trying to say whatever it would get us kind of off of his back a little bit.
Sure.
So it was just a very weird dynamic, and, you know, it really came down to, we had decided together, we had taken him to Durant High School, which in Waterford is an alternative high school. So there's, you know, mainstream, and then there's the alternative high school. And we'd met with the principal there at the time. And Nikolai really seemed to like it. Like, this is my place. Like, I think these are my people. Like, this could be really cool. Much smaller classes, a lot more one-on-one attention. And so I thought he was kind of getting excited for it, you know. So it was like coming up on the end of 9th grade, and you know, I was like, okay, like, we're almost there. Like, we're almost at the end of 9th grade, you know, and then you can do some recovery stuff. You know, we had him signed up for summer school. And then, you know, he's going to go to Durant in the fall. And he just, nothing, like, it seemed like he was excited for a little bit. And then school got out, and that excitement just kind of went away. And, you know, now we're in summer, and I thought, okay, now you don't have school. Like live your best life this summer.
Right.
And he lost his joy. And he had asked, I took our dog for a walk frequently, and he asked one night if he could go with me. And so we went to the park, and we were walking the dog, and I just said to him, you know, where's your joy? And he said, I don't know. I don't know how to find it. I feel broken. And I think that was the first time where I was like, wow, like, we really have a problem. You know, it was like I knew leading up to that things were not good. But I think in the back of my head, things will be fine, right? Things will get better. Like, you know, he'll start this new school. That will make it better. It's summer. This will make it better. And I never really stopped to really talk to him about, you know, why. I mean, we'd asked him, you know, what's going on? Why do you feel like this? But we never really pressed on it. And you know, he had a lot of kind of anxiety about different things, and I could tell he was going through some pretty severe depression, and he had all those signs. And but when he said, I feel broken and I don't know how to fix it, I knew we had a much larger problem than I had thought. But even then, you know, right, like, you think in your head, like, this happens to other families.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, this won't happen to my family.
Right.
Like,
Or they're just going through the teen phase or something.
Exactly. Like, this is just weird adolescent behavior, right? It's hormones. And we'll figure it out. It'll be fine. And, this was, we probably took that walk a week before he killed himself. And, the night that he died, I was volunteering at a park that was just down from our house for a chamber event. And, I had gotten home from work and I wanted to have a quick dinner before I went to the park to volunteer. And, he asked if he could eat dinner with me. And I knew something was a little off that night. Just, typical kids, like, you ask them to load the dishwasher. They don't. You tell them to pick up. They don't.
Yep,
right? Yep. And when I got home that day, the kitchen was clean. The dishwasher was loaded. The garbage had been taken out. Like, things had been picked up. Like, it was very strange. And, I was like, wow, like, thanks. Like, I'm so glad that you did this because, I have a busy night ahead of me and now I don't have to do this.
Right.
And then he said, where are you going? And we talked a little bit. And then he sat across from me at dinner and we had, dinner together. And he had asked if he could have ice cream. And I was like, no, how about if you wait until I get home and we'll have it together. And he was like, okay. And then Riley was there too. And I said, all right, I love you both and I'm off and call me if you need me. And I left and that was the last time that I saw him.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
that's horrible.
Yeah.
So, with you coming home and seeing that, the kitchen's cleaned and all that, obviously that doesn't immediately trigger to somebody, I think everything's right. You actually are probably maybe coming out of it, or something like that. So obviously your first thought was not something's wrong.
No, not at all. But, it's like now looking back at it, he totally had it planned. It was like, I think he did that because he knew it would make me happy. And that was like his way of doing something nice for me before he left this world. And, that's hard, and there were a lot of signs. We always talk about like suicide warning signs and all of that. And I think when you're in it, you don't necessarily recognize it, especially if you're not educated about it, which I was not at all. Suicide to me was the furthest thing from my mind. Like, that would never happen to my family, ever.
Right.
And so a lot of the things that kind of happened, I just never put it together that, that was like he's trying to tell us something. Yeah. And then, a few months after he passed away, a dear friend of mine asked me if I would join her and do a suicide prevention training for the Waterford community. So that friend was Heather Halls, who has also since passed away.
Yes.
But
what date was that? If you don't mind me asking, what date was that he ended up doing that?
So he turned 15 on June 2nd of 2019, and he took his life on June 20th of 2019. So he had been 15 for a whopping 18 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, are you comfortable with me asking how?
I'm not going to share it.
That's perfectly fine.
If people, I don't know. I'm comfortable with telling some people and not with others. And I also don't want to trigger people on this podcast too, because I think talking about the methods sometimes can be very triggering for others.
Yeah.
But he did do it at home. He was found by his oldest brother, who performed CPR until the police and the paramedics got there. His youngest brother called 911. So, his brothers have a pain and a visual that I wouldn't wish upon anyone.
Yeah.
And it pains me so much that that is kind of their last memory of Nikolai, because it isn't mine. I didn't get to see him in that state. By the time I got to the house, the police wouldn't even let me in the house.
Oh my God.
So, the last time I saw him, it was, in the hospital. And they had finally said to us that he's not going to make it and we needed to go in and say goodbye. And my poor husband, my oldest son had called him, and he unfortunately was on a business trip in California.
Oh, no.
So he was trying to take the red eye home from California. He couldn't get any flights, and just, oh my gosh, it was just such a nightmare. And I feel terrible because it literally was, something that, I was able to say goodbye to Nikolai, and his brothers were able to say goodbye to him, and we were all able to hold his hand and see him, but his dad wasn't, and
I'm so sorry.
that makes me sad for him.
Yeah.
And I know that that's a regret he has, but it's not one that you can do anything about.
Right.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, and just the days after are just, you're so numb, like you're just
You don't feel like it's actually happened.
no, it's just very strange. You go to the funeral home and just do you want him cremated or do you want to bury him? Well, who thinks about things like that? I mean, this is your child, right?
Right.
So going through the process of trying to figure all of that stuff out, and it's awful. And I just feel like just after death stuff sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks for everyone. Like, here you are, you've lost a loved one, and I don't care who you've lost, a mom, a brother, whoever, just you're already going through the pain of losing someone that you love, and now you have to plan all of these things, and it has to be done in a matter of days, and it's just so overwhelming and awful. And so went through that whole process, and we did have him cremated, and we hung on to his ashes, and we buried him in November, just because I wasn't ready.
Right. Yeah, you always got to take your steps when you're ready.
Yeah. So it took us a hot minute to get to that point, and picking out his marker, and I didn't do that well either. My husband and I went to pick out his marker, and we were there for what seemed like an eternity to me. And in the end, I said to Joe, look, I trust you. Like, I can't, I have to step away from this. Like, I can't figure this out. I can't think about this. Like, putting his name permanently on a stone is just so surreal.
Yeah.
And so my husband actually ended up designing his headstone, and it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. And he did an amazing job. So yeah, I mean, like.
Well, first off, I'm so sorry to hear about all that. He sounded like a great kid.
Yeah, he was.
With an unfortunate ending that he had to go through that.
Yeah.
So because of all of that, you said you got in touch with Heather Halls. Rest in peace, Heather Halls. And you created, at that point, I believe, On a Dragonfly's Wings, I guess?
Yes. So it wasn't a 501c3 organization yet. That didn't happen until 2022, quite a while after. I literally just started some social media, using the On a Dragonfly's Wings. And I'm just going to explain On a Dragonfly's Wings right now, because I get asked this all the time. Why a dragonfly?
Right.
And it's because Nikolai comes to me in the form of a dragonfly. He always has since, within probably 2-3 days after he died. And, I always, every time I really needed some comfort, or I needed him, or I needed to be reassured, that's when a dragonfly would show up. And I just, at one point, was like, this is Nikolai. Like,
Now, was a dragonfly something that you would see before his passing?
never. And that's what made it
That's
so
interesting.
significant. Like, I never gave dragonflies a second thought.
Yeah.
They're a bug. I mean, really, in all practical purposes. I just, like, never really gave them a second thought, but I just saw them so much, like, so frequently. And it was so obvious, like, you know, I would come out from somewhere and I would just be crying or whatever, and there would be a dragonfly sitting on the windshield of my car, you know, or I was at a baseball game on my birthday, which was in July, so it was a month after he died, and a dragonfly came and sat on the tip of my shoe.
Aw.
You know, so it's just like whenever I need to know that he's okay, or I need something, there's a dragonfly.
Yeah.
And when I started kind of looking into dragonflies, the spiritual meaning behind a dragonfly is the movement from darkness into light.
Oh, wow.
And I guess the way I look at it is that his mental health, like his mental illness of depression and anxiety, and, you know, his ADHD disorder, like all of those things combined caused him such pain. And, you know, he used to tell us, you know, that our family would be so much better if he wasn't in it. And I think that he lived in such a dark, dark space. And when he died, I'm very faith-based. So for me, he moved on to the light of heaven.
Yeah.
So that literal movement for me from darkness into light really hit home. And so when I was trying to come up with, okay, what am I going to call this thing I think I'm creating, it has to have dragonfly in it. And so that's what I came up with, was on dragonfly's wings. So
Okay. So that started with you and Heather Halls initially, yes?
So I started it not too long after Nikolai died. Another friend of mine, she has a marketing company, and she had helped me set up social media platforms because she really felt I was writing a lot. All of my feelings are out on my Facebook page, and they still are today. If you go to any my personal or my Dragonfly Facebook page, I just put everything out there. And she said, I think you need to start a blog. Like, I think that you need to start writing all of these things out, and you need a place for people to go and look at them and read them and know that they're not alone. And so that's kind of how it started, is I started a blog, really.
Nice.
And it was a grief blog. It was literally just about my grief. Okay. And then it evolved into, okay, so when we know more, we do better, right? And so I felt like there were things that maybe I didn't know, and that kind of occurred with Heather. So Heather was the executive director of the Waterford Coalition for Youth, and she wanted to bring in a guest speaker and a suicide prevention trainer. And so we did that through Oakland County, and they came in and actually went through all of the risk factors and the warning signs and just all that stuff, because if you're trained to maybe kind of look at people differently, and so when they say or they do things and you're looking at that a different way, it helps you support them, ask the right questions, and hopefully save a life, right? So I agreed to guest speak, and then she worked it out and hired a trainer through Oakland County. And so through that is really where I was hit in the face with, these are all the things that I should have seen that I didn't. So there's a lot of guilt, right? You know, suicide survivors live with guilt for the rest of their lives.
Right.
And we can try and lessen that, but that's just a reality for us. But it was, okay, So while it hurts to hear a lot of this, and it's not my fault, what am I going to do with the information?
Right.
So then that's when I really started the social media, because I feel like we need to educate more about mental health and taking care of ourselves and mental illness and what does it look like and what does it feel like. And, how do we support people? And, all of that is suicide prevention.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can start talking about it, that's the other thing. We just don't talk about these things, which is why we are talking about it.
Yes.
Because we don't talk about it enough, and people feel so isolated with their feelings and things. And that really spurned the whole On a Dragonfly's Wings. And I did a lot of education and things for a couple years, simply through social media and just, through trainings here and there with Heather. And eventually I knew I needed to do something bigger. Like there was something more that I needed to do. And I took a year to really kind of think about it and figure it out, and what am I going to do, and what does it look and feel like. And I just took the plunge, and with the help of a gazillion really amazing people in the community around me, they helped me form a 501c3 organization. And so here we are. And we're celebrating 2 years on Valentine's Day.
Oh, wow.
2024.
Nice.
Yeah. I always say Valentine's Day because that's the day that the IRS letter came in the mail.
All right. That's a good way to remember it.
So happy Love Day. And so it'll be 2 years. And so now we're still doing all of the education, and we're doing all of those things, but we're trying to do so much more.
Right. So with On a Dragonfly's Wings, you go around and talk to different school groups. What exactly do you do event-wise to actually promote all this stuff?
So we do a lot of partnering with other organizations or school districts. So the biggest one is Clarkston School District. So they have an entire wellness department in their school district, which
good
is
for them.
Yeah, I have not seen, I don't think, in any other school district. Oxford is definitely, since their unfortunate school shooting a couple years ago, they have also instituted a lot of mental health pieces in their district as well. But Clarkston does it right.
Yeah.
They have a program called Real Talk for high school kids, and we sponsor that every year. I'm a mentor for that program, myself and another board member, actually. We're both mentors for that program. We have partnered with, there's a church in Clarkston, Calvary Lutheran. I'm on their life committee, and we do a lot of suicide prevention. So we bring in speakers. Last year we brought in a magician, Anthony Grupido. Nice. He does an entire mental health suicide prevention magic show, and it was amazing. And he did it tailored for middle school and high school kids, and
Nice.
it was really cool. So we do a lot of partnering and funding different programs. We started a high school scholarship program for kids going into the mental health field to help support them, because we need more.
Oh, yeah.
And then, honestly, our biggest event that we put on ourselves with Waterford Youth Assistance and Waterford Parks and Rec and the Waterford Friends of the Library, we put on a mental health event for kids ages 5 to 13. And it's actually coming up January 20th from 10 to 12 at the Waterford Parks and Rec building on Williams Lake Road. So bring your kids. But last year we probably had almost 200 kids and their families that came out. It was absolutely amazing. It's super important. We're really focusing on youth, and this event is super, super important to me, because I feel like the earlier in life we can teach our kids how to support themselves and give them coping mechanisms and kind of build up their resource toolbox. So when they come up against obstacles or things that hurt them, that they're able to reach into that toolbox and pull out something that they know will work for them,
Yeah.
you know. So this entire event is about building that toolbox. So it's all these different activities, you know, from calming, breathing exercises, meditation, a worry box, you know, painting rocks. So we do a lot of like just art therapy, and there's just, you know, trying to show them that there's all these ways that they can work through some of their hurt and their anger and all of those big emotions that kids don't know what to do with.
Yeah.
And I feel like if we can help them younger, then as they grow older, maybe those things that hurt them or anger them, they'll be able to work through easier, and it won't feel so big.
Right.
And so heavy to them. And in addition, we have organizations from all over Oakland County that are going to come and set up tables. We have a bunch of therapy groups. We have some Oakland County people coming out. We have the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention is going to be there. And their purpose really is to help provide resources to parents, because it's great that we can help kids build a toolbox, but if we don't also help our parents know how to support their kids and how to openly have conversations with them and talk about the hard stuff, then we're not really helping the kids.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So, you know, all these organizations will be there. So, you know, if families are struggling, maybe they're already struggling, you know, and they just don't know what to do or they don't know where to go, we're going to have all of these resources available for them to talk to. And it's my favorite event, and I love it, and I'm so excited, and the kids always have so much fun, and you know, they don't realize exactly what they're doing.
Right.
I don't think.
Yeah.
You know, but I think that they have fun doing it, and that's the whole point, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so it's our organization does really just a lot of that kinds of, you know, just promotion and trying to get people to just really be open about talking about all the things.
Yeah. Because it's not necessarily a bad thing to talk about.
It's not.
I know it's not easy, but it's not a bad thing.
It's not.
Yeah. So, with your rock painting, you have, I believe it was 2 places you have?
I have 4 now.
4. It's 4 now. Okay.
Yes.
So you got 4 places that you put the rocks around.
Yes.
So say if I was just, you know, off the street and wanted to paint a rock and maybe put it in one of your gardens,
Yeah.
where could you do that?
So I have 4 Kindness Rock Gardens, and they are located at Hess Hathaway Park in Waterford, Waterford Library, the Clarkston Library, Calvary Lutheran Church, which is in Clarkston. And actually, I lied. I have 5. My 5th one is in Fenton. It's at Transfiguration Lutheran Church.
Oh, wow.
Opened one. So I actually have 5 gardens, and you can paint rocks and take them there and leave them. And really the whole point of those kindness gardens, it's I really built them in memory of Nikolai, because he was such a kind and just inclusive and joyful child until he wasn't.
Right.
And I just wanted to somehow, you know, we focus sometimes so much on how they died and their death, and I wanted something that his legacy was joy and bringing joy to others.
Yeah.
And that was what I wanted to remember. I wanted to remember all the good things and celebrate his life. And so the Kindness Rock Garden is, I'm hoping when people walk through them, they see all these amazing, kind messages. I just actually was at the Waterford Library, and there's quite a few new rocks. So somebody's been painting and putting them in there, and I love that so much.
Good.
But, you know, some of the messages are, you are amazing, you are enough, you matter, you know. And I feel like some days that's all we need to hear.
Yeah.
Right? Like, some days are just harder than others, and some days you just need somebody to say, you are enough.
Yeah.
just as you are.
Yeah.
And so really that's what those rocks are for. And, you know, if you see a rock and it speaks to you, I want you to pick it up and take it home.
That's amazing.
That's the point, right?
Yeah. So you could drop one off, pick one up,
Yep.
you know, whatever you
Share
like.
it with a friend.
Yeah. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, a positive came out of a negative, you know, as weird as that may sound to some people.
I know.
But I am glad you're doing this because I think Waterford is, your nonprofit is the only one in Waterford as a mental health suicide awareness, you know, like in
As
one.
far as I know.
So that's a big thing for Waterford Township.
Yeah.
What is your website that people can go to look up information, maybe donate, find your events?
Yes, it is on a dragonfly's wings.com. And flies is FLYS, not plural.
Okay.
So.
Very good.
But yeah, all of our events are out there. Locations for all the Kindness Rock Gardens are out there. We're working on a resource page. You'll be able to find this podcast on that page.
Yes.
So,
Very good.
yeah.
But yeah, thank you for sharing your story about your son and starting this nonprofit for us. Anything else for the listeners?
Not really. I just, I just want people to know that you're enough
Yeah.
and don't ever doubt it.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's all.
All right, great. Well, again, thank you for
Yeah.
starting this podcast and everything you do with your nonprofit.
Of course.
And yeah, keep listening.
Yeah.
You know, we got some great things lined up.
Yes, we do. It's going to be
Super
very
excited.
exciting.
Yes. So yeah, again, thank you, Kris. I really
Yes.
appreciate every single thing.
And let's talk
Yes.
about it.
Let's talk about it.
All the things.
All right.
Thanks.
And we'll catch you next time, okay?
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.